The grand ballroom of the royal palace buzzed with tension as cameras rolled for the most anticipated diplomatic event of the year. President Donald Trump and First Lady Melania had arrived in London for what was supposed to be a routine state visit. But nothing about this evening felt routine. Captain James Morrison stood at attention near the ornate golden doors, his red uniform pristine and his expression unreadable. As one of the Queen's most trusted royal guards, he had witnessed countless ceremonies, but tonight something felt different. His trained eyes scanned the room, taking in every detail with military precision. Trump strode into the ballroom with his usual confidence, his orange tie slightly askew and his hair catching the crystal chandelier light. Melania followed gracefully behind, her emerald gown flowing like liquid silk. The crowd of diplomats, journalists, and dignitaries turned to watch their entrance, cameras flashing like lightning. "Ladies and gentlemen," announced the master of ceremonies, "please welcome President Donald Trump and First Lady Melania Trump for tonight's state dinner celebration." Applause filled the room, but Captain Morrison noticed something odd. Melania's smile seemed forced, and her eyes darted nervously around the room. She kept touching her diamond necklace, a nervous habit he had observed from his previous security briefings. Trump began working the room, shaking hands and making his usual boastful comments about trade deals and his tremendous relationship with the royal family. "Nobody has a better relationship with the Queen than me," he declared loudly to a group of British officials. "She told me personally that I'm her favorite American president. Tremendous respect. Tremendous." The BBC cameras captured every word as Trump continued his performance. Melania remained mostly silent, offering polite nods and tight smiles to the assembled guests. Captain Morrison's instincts told him something was seriously wrong. As the evening progressed, dinner was served in the magnificent state dining room. Trump dominated the conversation at the head table, regaling the Queen with stories of his golf courses and business empire. "Your Majesty, you should visit Mar-a-Lago sometime. Beautiful place, the most beautiful. Everyone says so." The Queen maintained her diplomatic composure, but Captain Morrison caught a slight eye roll from her direction. He had served the royal family for 15 years and could read their subtle expressions like a book. During the second course, Captain Morrison received an urgent message through his earpiece. "Morrison, we need you in the security office immediately. Priority 1. He discreetly excused himself and made his way through the palace corridors to the security command center. His colleague, Sergeant Williams, was waiting with a manila folder and a grim expression. "James, you need to see this," Williams said, handing him the folder. "We received this from American intelligence an hour ago. It's about the First Lady." Morrison opened the folder and his blood ran cold. Inside were photographs, documents, and intelligence reports that painted a shocking picture. The papers revealed that Melania Trump had been secretly communicating with foreign intelligence agents for months, passing along sensitive information about her husband's private conversations and state secrets. The documents showed encrypted messages, bank account transfers, and even audio recordings of Melania discussing classified information about American military positions and diplomatic strategies. One particular photograph showed her meeting with a known Russian operative in a New York hotel just weeks before the state visit. "This can't be real," Morrison whispered, but the authentication stamps and intelligence seals looked genuine. "There's more," Williams continued. "The Americans want us to confront them tonight during the live television broadcast. They believe she's planning to pass along information about tomorrow's NATO meeting." Morrison's mind raced. If these documents were authentic, it meant the First Lady of the United States was a spy, and she was sitting just rooms away from some of the most powerful leaders in the world. "What are our orders?" he asked, though he already knew the answer would change everything. "We're to present this evidence to President Trump publicly during the televised portion of tonight's event. The Americans want maximum exposure to prevent any potential security breach." Morrison felt the weight of history pressing down on him. In just 30 minutes, he would have to walk into that ballroom in front of rolling cameras and hundreds of witnesses and potentially destroy the Trump presidency with revelations that would shock the world. Back in the dining room, Trump was in the middle of another story about his tremendous business success when Morrison returned. The president was completely unaware that his world was about to collapse. Melania continued to fidget with her necklace, and now Morrison understood why. She wasn't nervous about the formal dinner protocol. She was terrified that her secret double life was about to be exposed. The master of ceremonies approached the microphone for the evening's formal presentations. This was Morrison's cue. He straightened his red jacket, took a deep breath, and began walking toward the head table where the most powerful couple in America sat completely unprepared for what was coming. Captain Morrison reached the head table just as the orchestra finished playing the national anthem. The ballroom fell silent, with hundreds of eyes focused on the formal proceedings. Trump was beaming, clearly enjoying the pomp and ceremony of the royal treatment. "Your Majesty, Mr. President, distinguished guests," Morrison began, his voice steady despite the earthquake he was about to trigger. "I have been instructed to present some urgent security information that requires immediate attention." Trump's expression shifted from jovial to confused. This wasn't part of the planned program. "Security information? What kind of security information?" he demanded, his voice carrying across the silent ballroom. Melania's face went pale. She gripped her water glass so tightly, her knuckles turned white. Morrison noticed beads of sweat forming on her forehead despite the cool temperature of the room. Morrison opened the manila folder with deliberate precision. "Mr. Mien, President, these documents contain evidence of classified information being leaked from your administration to foreign intelligence agencies." A collective gasp rose from the assembled dignitaries. Camera crews scrambled to get better angles as they realized they were witnessing something unprecedented. The BBC director frantically signaled to keep the cameras rolling. Trump's face flushed red with anger. "That's ridiculous. Fake news. My administration is the most secure in history. We don't have leaks. Where did you get this garbage?" Morrison remained calm, his military training keeping him focused. "Sir, the information was provided by American intelligence services through official diplomatic channels. They requested that we present it publicly to ensure transparency." He handed the first document to Trump, whose eyes quickly scanned the page. The president's expression transformed from anger to shock as he read about encrypted communications and foreign bank transfers. "This is impossible," Trump muttered, but his voice lacked its usual conviction. "Melania, what is this? Tell them this is all fake." All eyes turned to the First Lady, who sat frozen in her chair. The cameras zoomed in on her face, capturing every micro-expression for millions of viewers worldwide. She opened her mouth to speak, but no words came out. Morrison continued his revelation, his voice cutting through the heavy silence. "Mrs. Trump, the documents show that you met with Agent Dmitry Volkov at the St. Regis Hotel in Manhattan on October 15th. During this meeting, you provided details about your husband's private phone conversations with NATO allies." Melania finally found her voice, but it came out as barely a whisper. "I don't know what you're talking about. This is all lies." Trump erupted from his chair, his face now purple with rage. "This is a setup, a complete setup by the deep state and the fake news media." He pointed an accusatory finger at Morrison. "You're part of this conspiracy." The Queen remained seated, her expression carefully neutral, but Morrison could see the concern in her eyes. This diplomatic dinner had turned into an international incident. Morrison pulled out a second document, this one containing bank records. "Mr. President, these are financial records showing payments of $200,000 transferred to an account under your wife's maiden name. The payments came from shell companies linked to foreign intelligence operations." Trump grabbed the papers from Morrison's hands, his eyes scanning frantically. The cameras captured every moment as the president's world crumbled in real time. "These could be faked. Anyone can fake bank records." But Morrison wasn't finished. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a small digital recorder. "Mr. President, we also have audio evidence." The ballroom fell into complete silence as Morrison pressed play. Melania's voice filled the room, speaking in hushed tones about her husband's upcoming meetings and his private opinions about various world leaders. "Donald thinks the German chancellor is weak," her recorded voice said clearly. "He plans to withdraw support from the Baltic Defense Initiative next month. He believes Putin when he says Russia has no aggressive intentions." Trump's knees buckled and he gripped the table for support. The revelation that his own wife had been recording their private conversations hit him harder than any political scandal he had ever faced. Melania stood up slowly, her composure finally cracking. Tears streamed down her face as she looked around the room at the shocked expressions of world leaders and diplomats. "I never meant for it to go this far," she whispered. The confession sent shockwaves through the ballroom. Camera operators zoomed in as the First Lady of the United States admitted to espionage on live television. Trump turned to face his wife, his expression a mixture of betrayal, rage, and disbelief. "Melania, how could you do this to me? To our country? I gave you everything." She met his gaze for the first time that evening, her voice gaining strength. "You gave me nothing but lies and humiliation. You think I didn't know about your affairs, your illegal business deals, your deals with criminals?" The royal guards stepped closer as Trump's anger reached a boiling point. "You ungrateful witch! I made you First Lady. I made you famous," Morrison intervened before the situation could escalate further. "Mr. President, we need to discuss the security implications of this situation immediately. Your wife has potentially compromised several ongoing operations." But Trump wasn't listening to reason. He was completely focused on his wife, his political mind already calculating the damage this would cause to his career and legacy. "This will destroy everything I've built. My presidency, my business, my reputation." Melania wiped her tears and stood straighter, finding courage she didn't know she possessed. "Your presidency was built on lies anyway. At least now the world will know the truth." The cameras continued rolling as the most powerful marriage in America disintegrated in front of a global audience. Morrison realized that his simple duty to deliver intelligence had triggered something much larger than anyone had anticipated. Security personnel began moving toward the head table as Trump's rage threatened to boil over. The evening that was supposed to celebrate diplomatic relations had turned into the most explosive political drama in modern history, and it was all being broadcast live to millions of viewers around the world. The tension in the ballroom reached a breaking point as Trump lunged toward his wife, his face contorted with fury. "You've destroyed me. You've destroyed America," he screamed, but royal guards immediately stepped between them, their red uniforms forming a protective barrier. Morrison quickly signaled for additional security as the situation spiraled beyond diplomatic protocol. The cameras continued rolling, broadcasting the unprecedented meltdown to shocked audiences worldwide. News anchors struggled to find words for what they were witnessing. Melania backed away from her husband, her elegant composure completely shattered. "I destroyed America? You've been selling out this country since the day you took office. I was trying to protect it." This revelation hit the room like a thunderbolt. The First Lady wasn't just confessing to espionage, she was claiming to be a patriotic whistleblower. Trump stopped struggling against the guards, his political instincts suddenly kicking in. "What are you talking about? I'm the greatest president in American history. I've made America great again." Melania laughed bitterly, the sound echoing off the ornate walls. "Great? You've been taking money from foreign dictators. You've been sharing military secrets with enemies. I had to do something." Morrison realized the situation was far more complex than the intelligence briefing had suggested. He pulled out another document from his folder, one he had been instructed to keep in reserve. "Mrs. Trump," he said carefully, "are you saying you were working with American intelligence agencies?" All eyes turned back to Melania as she straightened her shoulders with newfound determination. "Yes, the FBI approached me 6 months ago. They knew about Donald's illegal activities, but they needed someone on the inside to gather evidence." The ballroom erupted in gasps and murmurs. Even the Queen's eyebrows raised slightly at this stunning twist. Trump stared at his wife in absolute disbelief. "The FBI? You've been working with the FBI against me?" Trump's voice cracked with the weight of ultimate betrayal. Morrison looked down at his final document, realizing he was about to deliver the killing blow to a presidency. "Mr. President, the evidence Mrs. Trump gathered led to the discovery of your secret offshore accounts containing over $50 million in payments from Russian and Chinese sources." Trump's legs gave out completely and he collapsed into his chair. The cameras zoomed in on his face as the full magnitude of his exposure hit him. His empire, his presidency, and his freedom were all crumbling simultaneously. "This is all fake. Deep state lies," he protested weakly. But his usual bluster was gone. The evidence was overwhelming, and his own wife had been the one gathering it. Melania moved closer to the microphone, her voice growing stronger with each word. "I've spent years watching him betray everything America stands for. I couldn't stay silent anymore. The American people deserve to know who they really elected." The royal guards maintained their positions as Trump seemed to deflate before everyone's eyes. His orange spray tan looked garish under the bright lights, and his carefully styled hair was now disheveled from his outburst. Morrison stepped forward with his final revelation. "Mr. President, based on this evidence, American authorities have issued a warrant for your arrest on charges of treason, money laundering, and conspiracy against the United States." The words hit like a physical blow. Trump looked around the ballroom at the sea of shocked faces, realizing that his political career was ending in the most humiliating way possible, exposed by his own wife on international television. "You can't arrest a sitting president," he shouted, grasping at his last remaining shreds of power. The Queen finally spoke, her voice cutting through the chaos with royal authority. "Mr. Trump, I believe it would be best if this matter were resolved through proper diplomatic channels." But it was too late for diplomatic solutions. American Secret Service agents, who had been coordinating with British security, entered the ballroom and approached the head table. Their presence confirmed that this wasn't just a political scandal, it was a criminal matter. Trump turned to face his wife one final time, his expression a mixture of hatred and desperate pleading. "Melania, we can fix this. We can say you were coerced, threatened. We can blame it on fake news." She shook her head slowly, her decision already made. "The only thing I regret is not doing this sooner. The American people trusted you, and you sold them out for money." As the Secret Service agents approached, Trump made one last attempt to salvage his dignity. He straightened his tie, ran his hand through his hair, and addressed the cameras directly. "This is all a witch hunt. The greatest witch hunt in political history. I am the most innocent president ever, and this proves how corrupt the system really is." But his words fell flat. The evidence was too overwhelming, the betrayal too complete, and his wife's testimony too damning. Morrison watched as the agents placed handcuffs on the President of the United States in front of rolling cameras and horrified world leaders. It was a moment that would be remembered in history books for generations. Melania stood quietly as her husband was led away, her face a mask of relief and sorrow. She had chosen her country over her marriage, justice over loyalty, and truth over comfortable lies. The Queen stood gracefully, signaling an end to the most extraordinary diplomatic dinner in royal history. "I believe this evening's proceedings are now concluded," she announced with characteristic understatement. As the ballroom slowly emptied, Morrison reflected on how a routine security briefing had led to the downfall of a presidency. He had simply been doing his duty as a royal guard, but history would remember him as the man who delivered the evidence that brought down Donald Trump. The cameras finally stopped rolling as Trump disappeared into a waiting vehicle, his presidency ending not with the pomp of impeachment or the dignity of resignation, but with handcuffs and the testimony of the woman who knew him best. Melania remained in the ballroom for several more minutes, surrounded by FBI agents and British security officials. Her role as a double agent had ended, but her role in American history was just beginning. The stunning revelation had unfolded entirely on live television, ensuring that millions of viewers worldwide had witnessed the most dramatic political collapse in modern history. The Royal Guard had uncovered far more than anyone expected, and the consequences would reshape American politics forever. Trump looked up and smiled at the approaching Royal Guard, assuming it was part of the ceremonial proceedings. He had no idea that Captain James Morrison was carrying documents that would reveal his wife as a foreign agent and throw his presidency into the biggest scandal in American political history. The cameras continued rolling as Morrison approached, and millions of viewers around the world watched unknowingly as one of the most explosive moments in modern politics was about to unfold live on television.